to more than once as a cheerful, positive manner. Also dimples. Sadly, none of those things were ever going to bring Adriana back or render her parents' grief less dreadful. They let me into their home and told me everything they believed to be relevant about their daughter. Adriana was enrolled in an online educational course to complete her American high school diploma. She'd had a summer job at the local pub in Tobermory, where they were renting whilst renovating a permanent home. Good student, no drug problem, no boyfriend, very social, missing her friends in America to an appropriate extent. No red flags. She had a twin brother, Brandon, with furious eyes. That was okay. I couldn't imagine how it would feel to have a missing twin. He was suffering. Last was a little sister, Luna, 4 years old, and the product of a union between older parents who believed that nature was taking care of contraception, only to be caught out. Cute, bouncy, with curly black hair. She was a miniature of her Latina mother, Isabella. Their father, Rob, was the American classic. Tanned skin, baseball-loving, avid barbecuer. They looked at me as if I were both the poison and the antidote. A greeting I was used to. No one wants to be in a situation where they need my help. I'd been working as an investigator since graduating from my criminal justice course 8 years earlier, and Adriana's corpse was the most upsetting thing I'd seen in all that time. Given that I'd found the remains from a mountain lion mauling and witnessed a bear attack in progress, that's a high bar. It was little more than a hunch that had taken me to McKinnon's cave. To be fair, a guidebook and a decent understanding of teenagers had ignited my gut instinct. Not that it was inevitable that Adriana was there. It could have been any of the caves on the island. A 22-mile trek from Tobermory, the distance was probably the reason McKinnon's cave hadn't been explored by police earlier. But Adriana's peers were old enough to be driving, and at that age, the further you partied from home, the less likely you were to be discovered. McKinnon's cave is a billion-year-old crack in the western edge of the island that invades the landmass by some 500 feet. By early October, September's previously calm seas were washing up moodier and less predictable. There'd been a storm that morning with a high tide. McKinnon's cave was only accessible safely when the tide was out. Otherwise, the pathway required a swimming costume. I'm an outdoor sports enthusiast. Skier, snowboarder, hiker, mountain climber. I've camped out in Arctic conditions and endured snowstorms with nothing but a tent membrane between me and the elements. But a sea swimmer? At night? Not so much. The cave was impressive. As I entered, the rock wall on the right leaned in, imposing. The entrance was a tall, thin break in the rock face that made my pulse dance in my wrist. The late sunlight was no match for the darkness inside, but I'd come prepared with a climbing helmet featuring multiple lamps. Stepping in, I knew my instinct had been right. The discarded cider can I trod on produced the distinctive metal crumpling sound that says teenagers the world over. The remains of a fire were just a few meters beyond, close enough to the fresh air that the smoke would be drawn out of the cave. More than one ring of surrounding stones, more than one type of wood burned. The makeshift fireplace had been used, relaid, and reused, perhaps over years. Teenagers have places. I'd already searched many of those places on the island. Favorite beaches, deserted farmers' huts, shells of castles, car parks with sunset views and privacy. But Adriana was waiting for me at McKinnon's cave. My footsteps echoed through the mouth of the cavern, the sound sharpening as I entered the throat. Then, into a substantial room with natural shelves high on the rocky walls and ditches cracked into the ground at each edge. High-ceilinged, grand, imposing. I'd have missed Adriana, if not for a break in the blanket of rocks that revealed the metallic glimmer of the teal.